Hello everyone, and welcome to the beautiful Elba Island. The Elba Island is located off the coast of Tuscany. I come here every summer with my family to enjoy some time together, and this year I thought it would have been interesting to bring along some film and shoot some street photography on the island, as I've never done that before. Ma vabbè, un brodo. We were staying in a bungalow above our favorite beach, with direct view over the bay. I brought along my Rollei 35S and started finishing the Fuji C200 roll I still had into the camera, walking around the camping. All the B-roll of this video was made with the Sony A7 IV paired with the 24-70 GM lens. Anyway, I was very happy to see the good old welcoming film rolls into the fridge, and I can say it was quite a lot cheaper here rather than in Florence. I decided to grab some fresh Kodak Ultramax 400 to start things off in style. As you may already know, the Rollei 35S is my go-to film camera when it comes to street photography and travel photography in general. It's super portable, lightweight, and shoots amazingly sharp images thanks to the 40mm 2.8 size lens. The lens itself folds into the camera body, making it the perfect pocket camera. Somehow I always mess around when I load the film, but at the end of the day I've never had any issues so far, which is pretty incredible. Our first day, we headed out to Portoferraio, which is the main town on the island. I know this place like it was my own room, but somehow I'm always inspired by its surroundings. This is the lighthouse on the very tip of the coast, where I decided to start the photo walk. The light was already gone from the cliff, but I was left with some cool backlight on the lighthouse. I then noticed this woman talking on the phone while facing the sea and took another shot, which probably just lacks of light and contrast. We then walked into the city as the sun was filling the streets with interesting light. I should probably make a whole series of these half-grown walls, as I tend to be drawn to them like an insect of some kind. I really love those harsh shadows in my street photography, as they add another level of depth to the image. These old looking streets are so familiar to me that they feel like home. I felt so good photographing them on film, as it gives me the feeling of frozen time. I want to 40mm, I have to be pretty aware of the distraction elements that can ruin my composition, as it's pretty wide and things can get in the way rather easily when you're focused on your subject. That is exactly why I jumped on this pot of very suffering flowers to avoid getting too much foreground in the shot. The Elba Island is home to this amazing purple plant, which is always blooming in late summer. Paired with the typical stairs of the city, it definitely made this shot come to life. I was then attracted by the green color of this doorway. Here Rollei focuses by zone, which basically means counting your steps to get the distance from the subject. After a while you kind of get used to it, but with wide apertures it's always worth double checking. I also brought along my Yashica FX3 paired with the Yashica 28mm, but had to walk a little more to find a suitable composition, while Julia spent a few minutes and a couple hundred shots on this sleeping cat. The wide view of the 28mm was perfect to capture how the architecture of the city climbs on the hill and give more scale to the alleys.
That is quite a cool shot.
Oh, hello, foot. There are a few panoramic views in the city, though I was still more concerned about getting some human elements into my shot rather than squeezing the whole panorama into one shot. From this elevated position though, I was able to get a few interesting photos. I then walked down the stairs to photograph the man working on the plant a couple more times, as it was really interesting to my eye. ISO 400 ended up being great for those shaded alleys. Oh, there's a cat in the middle of the street. That's why I made this sound. I love cats, by the way. At this point, the light was basically gone from the city and we headed out for dinner. The next day, after a nice morning spent at the beach, we visited Marina, one of the nicest towns around the island. It's quite a bit smaller than Portoferraio, but it's very colorful. I was excited. I'm a loud person.
Sicuramente. Dai, bellissimo. Il problema è che non c'è luce. E quindi è una... È proprio una... Con quella luce sarebbe stata una super foto. Beige. Riesci? Sì. Oh, che bello anche. Ah. Scelta ottima. Sono catalani. Hanno una bruttissima, no? Blu, rosso, blu.
We started on the seaside walk, which is also pretty interesting. Not this shot is trash. But to redeem myself, I jogged weirdly along this lady in blue who was matching the house in the background, and I loved the result. I liked the house so much that I indeed decided to take a couple extra shots of it. Getting deep into the town, I took out the Yashica once again, decided to put the 28mm to good use. I was rocking some Kodak Hector 100 and the photos turned out pretty good. After that, I came back to my beloved Rollei and focused more on the tourists around the area. Look at this weird stance as I take the shot. Once again, I had the opportunity to shoot some photos on the seaside, even though the sky was completely clear and offered no interest at all. I do feel better about this shot though. This was one of my favorite of the whole trip, as this gas station was kept the same as many years ago, and the lady in red matches a few elements of the scene. What I really love about the Rollei is how silent the shutter release is. It's very hard to be noticed, even when you find yourself very close to the subject. I took a few shots on the beach, and even if the light wasn't great, the sky wasn't great, the colors were pretty interesting, and I tried to show the daily routine of this famous beach.
Cos'è, 3 metri? 4 metri? No, odio queste cose. Fa schifo. Fa schifo. Fa schifo il cazzo. E la farò lo stesso.
It really wasn't all that bad. Once again, this flower symbolizes summertime in the island, and there's another wall with grass on it. Anyway, on the main road there is this spot where you can see the highest mountain on the island, dominating the landscape at around 1000 meters of elevation. After a few minutes, the clouds rolled in and we decided to drink rather than shoot photos. Back in Portoferraio, I visited the harbor, probably the most interesting part of the whole town. This time I started with my Yashica and its trusty 28mm. I always keep the camera unloaded, then try to get the shot, wind the film and try again, every time. Anyway, the light was great. I shot all of those with a nice backlighting and I was surprised by how sharp the images came out. The next day, we explored another beautiful town, Capoliveri. Capoliveri is once again one of the most famous on the island, if not the most famous when it comes to tourism. It was built on a very steep hill, which translates to lots of up and downs when walking through the city. From the main square, this one, you can also see the sea in the distance. The idea was similar, walk around and take some photos. What I ended up doing though was taking photos of empty spaces, which are quite rare in such a commonly busy place. These reminds me of Edwin Hopper, where everything seems to be suspended in time. After a refreshing granite, on the way back I managed to snap a photo of this guy, which I like a lot due to the matching red elements in the image. Fast forward to the next day, where I burned the last shot on the Rollei, I know it's horrible, to load some fresh film. Maybe doing it before my morning coffee was a mistake. I will let you judge that. Anyway, I realized I've never shown the whole process, so I will go through it quickly this time, so that if you get a Rollei, you'll be safe. First of all, turn up the lever near the viewfinder to release the film. You'll notice a letter R. You can then turn the lever on the bottom of the camera to wind the film back into the canister, turning in the direction of the white arrow. After hearing a nice clicking sound, give it a couple more winds and release the lever on the bottom left of the camera to slide the back out and retrieve the canister. I then relapsed to Kodak Portra 400 as I can't get enough of that sh*. To load the film, simply throw it into the film slot of the camera and open the flap which separates the shutter from the back of the camera. Slide some film out through the winding mechanism on the left side and close the flap. So basically take the shot, wind the film, take another shot, wind the film, and so on before closing the back. Be sure that the tiny lever near the viewfinder is back down before closing the back of the camera. It made some very weird noises when winding, so I was super scared. But at sunset, I tried to take a test shot, and as you can see, everything was fine and the numbers on the bottom of the camera were advancing. That evening, we visited a very special place where you can look directly at Portoferraio. It's kind of a sheltered harbor, which offers a rather impressive sunset every time you get there. We arrived at the start of the golden hour and took a few shots before dinner time. Warm light and long shadows made the location quite interesting. I then walked towards the entry of the harbor and took a few shots of Portoferraio. You can see how it was built on an elevated area to dominate the seascape. Moving on, I noticed an amazing scene glowing in orange light, which appeared to be frozen in time. I took a shot and absolutely loved how Portra 400 rendered the warm, glowy light. As the sun was setting, I walked back to the harbor, taking a few extra photos with glorious orange light. These are some of my favorites. The next day, I enjoyed a nice rest day at the beach and didn't shoot much. I took some photos in the late afternoon in a famous beach near Portoferraio, which features some amazing tidal pools and some stunning colorful rocks. These rocks makes the whole beach look like a piece of art. We also took a walk around the industrial area of Portoferraio where I took those shots. I really love those abandoned places and the photographic opportunity that they offer. So in the end, the last day arrived and I decided to retrieve the roll of Hector from the Yashica. You basically press the tiny button on the bottom of the camera and then just spin the retriever on the top left of the camera. After a sharp click, pull the retriever up to open the camera body, and that's done. We then hopped on the boat and started our way back. Here's a shot of my dad on the pier before we left the harbor. It's kind of funny to share the ride with hundreds of other people feeling the same about going home. We always greet Portoferraio's tip with the lighthouse I photographed at the very beginning of this video. And we look at the seagulls following the ferry in order to grab some snack mid-air. Looking to the upper deck, I saw two kids resting on the ground and took the last shot of the trip. I then retrieved the roll of portrait from the Rollei and found out that there was actually some weird friction going on. I panicked. As I looked inside, I saw a tiny bit of film ripped. Thankfully, the rest of it was all safe into the canister. All the photos turned out great, and I still have no idea about why or how it happened. Every finished roll from this time on will be filled with delicious anxiety. It was such a nice holiday spent with my loved ones, and I'm glad I brought some film along. From the place where we stayed to the people around us, everything inspired me in a very fresh way, even though I've been traveling to the Elba Island each year for more than 20 years now. As always, if you like this video, please consider subscribing. It goes a long way and enables me to do bigger projects more often. Like this video and comment below what was your favorite shot. Until next time, ciao!